Hello viewers, welcome back. We are now looking at sensitivity analysis part 3, and one of the other things that you can do to make this look complete is that you can make this cell right here, this cell C89, essentially invisible by turning it into white font. In other words, we change it to white. Instead of being in black, we change it to white. So we need this cell C89 to be here for the data table to work. But the evidence does not, sorry, the audience doesn't really need to see that same section, because at the end of the day, what is reflecting in this area is what is in the center there. So what we need to do is that we need to change that cell 89 to white font. So let's select that cell. It is cell C89. We come here, we tap Alt key, H for home, because we know font colors are in the home section of the ribbon. Then from there, we want to go to this side where it says, we want to go here to FC for font color. This one, FC for font color. And now you'll be able to see that color palette. And then we can see on top here, we have that cell right there. So we can hit enter after selecting that white. So that's what we wanted to have in place to make sure that that one is invisible, because the audience, they don't actually need to see it. But those who prepared it, they actually know there are some values there. So once we remove those gray shadings, so we can see that we are able not to see anything there. So we can also change even the fill color. Alt H for home, then we go to H again for fill color. Then we can also select this white here. You will see that it has completely disappeared. Now we can see as if there is nothing that is there after removing that gray shading. So we only need to have this first table for the enterprise value table, this one alone. When we have that table in place, we are going to, because we only want that table to be a data table, and we are going to derive the other 3 tables from that one data table that we've created. So let's get started and see what we can do. So to get the equity value, because down here we are going like this, because there is no way we can connect here before getting the equity value, because from enterprise value you can be able to get the equity value. So to get the equity value, let's just bring that into focus. So for us to get the equity value, let's say in this cell D102, that one there, what we need to do for this table, we know that equity value is going to be equal to enterprise value minus the net debt. So we have the equity value, which is within this cell. The equity value that we are talking about is this one. Let's bring this into focus, because we need to be seeing both tables. I think there it's fine. So the cell D102, we are going to pick the enterprise value from this. That is D90. Those are the things that we are going to pick. Now, what we are going to do to have those values in place, we are going to have an equal sign here, equal sign. We move to D90 minus. Now we are going to less the net debt. And the net debt is up here in cell, this cell right up here. Let's try to look at the net debt. It's here in cell G82. So we can pick that figure there. But now, this figure G, or that cell G82, we need to put in the dollar sign so that we can lock that value in place, because we are going to do a fill right to have those values in. So what we have to do is to make sure, because all these values, they are going to have this one minus this one, 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 meaning this figure is going to be fixed in one place. We are going to lock it, because all those values within this table, they are going to be subtracted from this. In other words, we are going to subtract this from all these values that are within these tables to get the values for these filled up. And the only way we can do that is by putting the dollar sign. We make that column, so that cell fixed or locked. That is what we call the cell referencing. We can tap the F4 key to have that locked. But if it's not working, then we can manually input those dollar sign. You put your the row is 82, so shift 4 to put in the dollar sign. Then you lock even the column G, shift 4 to put in the dollar sign. Now we are done. We've put in those dollar signs in that cell. In other words, we are locking the G column and at the same time locking the row 82. So now we can hit enter. When we hit enter, even if we don't do anything else, we just copy and paste. So what we are going to do, remember this is a table. Now what we are going to do, we are going to copy this value in that cell D102. Control C to copy. Then we are going to highlight. We use the shift key, we hold down the shift key, we use the right arrow to highlight across, then the down arrow to highlight downwards. Now we've highlighted everything. Now what we are going to do, we are going to make sure that we do a paste special. Alt ES. What are we pasting? We are pasting formulas. So we use the down arrow to go to formulas, and then we hit enter. And we have that figure filled up. Very easy. But now, here is a little tip, Excel tip. Just if that copy and paste worked correctly, just to make sure that that copy and paste, it has actually worked correctly. If we go into this cell, this first cell, in here, that D102, and tap F2 to be within that cell, you'll find that we have cell referenced the G82. So we can see that that one is correct. Now, all we have to do is to make sure that we do the same auditing. We move diagonally. We move like this. In other words, we move, remember diagonal lines, they are the ones if, let me just show you something. If you are to move diagonally, it means from this point where our cursor is, we are going to move up to this point. This one. If the cursor was here, we would move up to this point here. That's the diagonal movement. Because if you check this point and you also check this point and they are all okay, it means all the data table is actually fine. So that's the kind of auditing that we wanted to carry out, to make sure that what we have done here is actually the copy and paste. It has actually worked right. So we go to this one. You will see that even these ones are actually, so it is this minus this G80. So you hit enter. So it means we have done the right thing. So the issue for auditing is actually what we did in our previous lessons. So you'll be able to go through our videos and you'll be able to understand some of those things, because we need to be able to save time, but at the end of the day, we are doing the right thing. So we've done the auditing and we found that those dollar signs are actually existing all the way across. So what we want to do is we want now to move to the next area. Now, what we want to do, we want to move from the equity value, and now we move back to the third item here, equity value per share, and we want to fill in those values there. We know that equity value per share is actually the share value divided by the number of outstanding shares. So next up in this cell K90 is our equity value per share. And this is very straightforward and very simple as compared to what we've been doing. So what we are going to take, we are going to our equity value. This cell D102, this one here. So we put in an equal sign, we go to this one. And now what we are going to do, we are going to divide that. We divide that value with. Now we are going to take a look at the number of shares outstanding. So we look at the number of shares outstanding. They are this side up. We brought them up here. So let's check the number of shares outstanding. They are here in cell N79. But now we have also to tap the F4 key to have that locked in one place, because all these values here for equity values, the values that are going to be filled up here, they are going to be based on this same number. So we have to make sure that we put in some dollar sign, shift 4, and even come here, we put in shift 4. The other shortcut is to hit the F4 key. We have to press enter, then we can be able to have that value displayed in that cell K90. So what we want to do now, we want to copy that cell K90. So we do a copy, Control C. And now what we are going to do, we are going to highlight across. So we hold down the shift key, right arrow, then we hold down the shift key again, down arrow, to highlight like that. So we've highlighted those values, and now we are going to do a paste special. So we go Alt ES. Then we use the down arrow to move down to formulas. We hit enter, and we are finding that we've filled all those values in there. So we filled all those values in that cell. So even if you try to do an audit, you'll find maybe from this cell, you find that this one is cell referenced to this value here. So which is right. So we can now see that we have all those values filled up. Now, the other thing that we want to look at is we want to make sure that at least we look at the last table. We complete the last table. So let's scroll down a little bit to this way so that we bring this into focus, because we want also to be seeing or even this one, because we are going to use information from that. So let's now start from that K102. We need to find information that we are going to use for that K102. So this one for K102 is for premium or discount to current price. Remember, the current price is up there. Now, this is also a very similar approach like the one we've gone through, and we are going to use this formula in cell K90, this one here. That's the values that we are going to use. Remember, here we are just doing a comparison to find out whether we have a discount or we have a premium. So we are going to pick that value from here. So to get this value, we shall get equal sign. We are getting the our view, we divide by the current market view. In other words, these are our views. So it is going to be this. So we use the up arrow to pick this value up here. It is that divide by, now we are going to take the current price. Remember, the current price is up here. So we can use the up arrow to move. So the current price is here, $2.71. So what we are going to do, we are going also to make sure that we put in some dollar signs here. So since we can't see down there, we can adjust from here. So we put in a dollar sign there, shift 4, then also shift 4. In other words, we are changing these values. All these values are going to be depending on that same number. So hit enter. Now, if you come to check to this point, oh, sorry. It wasn't done. So we can adjust from here. Remember, we are just comparing, we are making a comparison. So what we are going to do, we less off 1. And then we hit enter. So I guess you can guess the last step. And the last step is actually to go into the cell K102, this very one here, and we make sure that we highlight and get these values, copy and paste special to have these values filled up here. So what we are going to do, we do a copy, Control-C, hold down the Shift key, use the right arrow to highlight, down arrow to highlight downwards, and then we are going to Alt-ES. So it is Alt-ES, then we use the down arrow formulas, then we hit enter to have those values filled up. So you can see that we have all those values have been filled into those cells. So we've now done filling all these tables. But you have to look at these values that are within the center. You will see that these values, actually we got these values up. This was our view. This was the percentage of profit that we calculated last time. This was the equity value, and this was the enterprise value. So we've gotten all those values just by using those different sensitivity analysis without going through the other computations. So now we have actually got a couple of key takeaways from this discussion. Number one, using data tables is a really powerful tool in Excel, but you want to be a little bit careful. So what you want to go into is the other settings. We need to be careful, because if you find that your settings are actually not when they are not set to automatic, you may find that we may be having data tables failing to work. But at the same time, there are situations where the data tables are actually more than one. In other words, there are many data tables, and those data tables are actually in that same model. So what we do if that happens, we make sure that we set this automatic. So we can maybe try to go back a little bit. Alt F for file, then T for options, then we go down, use the down arrow to move down to formulas. This is what I'm talking about. It's supposed to be in the automatic. Secondly, if there are very many data tables within one financial model, you make sure that you select this option, automatic except for data tables. But again, if you do that, then you have to remember to hit that F9 key to manually update the data tables. The other thing that is so important to remember with data tables is that it can lead to a lot of errors. So the things that can actually lead to errors in here are these labelings here. These labelings, whether they are going to be on the x-axis and the y-axis, those labelings there, they are actually a problem. The y-axis, here we are seeing we have the work, the weighted average cost of capital. And the x-axis, we have the terminal growth rate. And we have to make sure that those can't actually move under any circumstance. So that what we have just done, keep things simple, and we have to make sure that even this value here is manually punched in. In other words, they are supposed to be manually inserted there. They are not supposed to be linked up. That value for 2% and this value of 13.5% for work. So that keeps our table centered on these values that you see, F92. Because if you have these values when they are hard codes, then we are going to have these values centered here, just like the way you are seeing here. But remember, this is the only table that we used as a data table. So we have that value F92 centered there of roughly 133,000. And this very figure here matches this value up here for this one. It's supposed to match this enterprise value that we have here of G81, the center value here, supposed to be matching this one. So those are the things that we need to make sure that we have. So we have to keep things really simple in a compact model. So this manual input here of 2.2% is really important. And even this manual input here, those are supposed to be manually input in that section there. So let alone we are going to go over to the different sections and see how to build a self-centered data table. In other words, we are going to have the value for these ones, G80, for the work. and the values for terminal value there, G79. In other words, if we want to have self-centered figures here, the point here is that we have to make sure that those values of the work and the terminal value, if they ever change, then the enterprise value within here also has to change. Meaning, if these ones they change, this one, even this one will also change, and it will have a self-centered correct enterprise value for every single period or time. In other words, for every value that you are seeing in here in this table. So what we are going to do, let's go into the next video and we shall look at other things so that to conclude this chapter, because we are going to look at the things that we've discussed, and we'll look at certain things that we can actually add in and make sure that we have something that is going to have sense in our perspective. But as a way of concluding, this is a great work that we've done. We have completed the compact DCF model. As you can see, everything is now filled up. We are done. This is what we wanted to have in place. So we are done with those small models. And these small models, actually, they are so helpful for quick analysis, because you can almost think of these small modules as screening tools in order to get into certain situations. In other words, to figure out some situations, because these are the things that are going to give you some insights about what can be in the full analysis. So these some sections that we've seen here, they are the ones that are going to give us a more understanding of what we shall expect to have in the full course. So now that we have gone through the transition for this DCF model, for the next step, we are going to look at the valuation techniques to understand where DCF fits in with those techniques. In other words, we want to look at some theoretical things. We look at the different techniques that we use for doing business valuation, and we want to make sure to see how is DCF going to fit into those different methods that we have. And we are also going to talk about the importance of upfront model design, which can save us more of our time. So we are going to talk about also critical model drivers and why it is so important to isolate them on a different page. And this will allow us to run scenarios throughout the model to get an idea of how it reacts to these critical inputs. So let's try to move into the next video, and we are going to start on this more complex model as we keep on building our full DCF model. So let's go to the next video where we are going to look at the valuation techniques. We see you there.